Alrighty, let's talk about the hotel from John Wick. John Wick's hotel called the Continental, run by Winston in the John Wick movies. Well, we're looking at a TV series that was developed around that hotel to maintain the law within the John Wick universe. So it had to do that without changing anything so that more movies and shows can be spun off within the universe without changing anything. And one of the executive producers is, of course, the person that created the John Wick world. So kudos to that. Now, we are set back in the 70s. Winston's not yet the manager of the hotel. And so episode 1 I'll be reviewing here. It's a 3-part mini-series. Each part will be roughly 90 minutes long. So episode 1 kicks off with the theft of a MacGuffin. So it's something else. I'm not going to spoil what it is, just enough to say it's the MacGuffin, and that establishes the whole scene for the rest of the movie. Now, it's a rather entertaining action sequence at the beginning. So, of course, Winston is in England and he gets kidnapped and he gets brought to the Continental and basically told, listen, your brother stole something, find it or I'll kill you. Find it, bring it back to me or I'll kill you. And that sets the whole plot, the whole motivation for all of the characters within the episode 1. So the brother's motivated for his own reasons. Winston's motivated to find his brother to save his own skin. And all the Continental people are motivated to find the MacGuffin as well. So, having said all of that, you don't really need to be a fan of the John Wick world, although I think you'll enjoy it if you are. But you can pick it up pretty quickly what's going on. Someone stole something from a bad guy and the bad guy wants it back. The plot of a lot of movies, so there's nothing really outstanding about that. It's very easy to pick up. And you can pick up pretty quickly that the hotel is some kind of gangster hideout as well, and something weird about the hotel. So, no, you don't need to have seen the John Wick series, although it does mention it in the title, The Continental from the world of John Wick. Okay. Now, I don't want to drop too many spoilers. The acting is great in this series. You've got really huge, big budget movies and television series coming out of the likes of Disney, and their acting is piss poor, quite frankly. This from Lionsgate, and they sold it to Peacock. The acting is really damn good. And, you know, they're not making this for $300 million like a Disney film. And yet the acting is good. It was filmed in Hungary, in Budapest, in case you're wondering. Now, it is set in the 70s, so a scene of New York City will be established and the Twin Towers do exist, which was good to see. And, of course, it means they all had to find older-looking cars to drive around with in the 70s as well. Now, there is one element that sort of, well, there's a couple of things I want to mention. One is the old 100-pound woman kicking butt. Now, we all groan when we see that a lot of the time in modern Hollywood movies, supposedly big blockbuster movies and things like that. Whereas it's the equivalent of the 100-pound woman getting in a boxing ring with a 200-pound guy and just beating him up. And we all roll our eyes at it because we know it's not true. However, in this show where the 100-pound woman does kick butt, she does it by taking people by surprise and armed with weapons. So, for example, if someone snuck up behind you armed with a hammer and hit you, well, it doesn't matter if they're 100 pounds, you're not going to expect it. You can't defend against it. So when she does things like that, it's really quite believable. Now, she's also super agile and legit super agile, she's not running up a wall like Trinity out of the Matrix or anything like that. So her agility it looks legit, so I'm quite satisfied with her ability to defend herself, as she's always having a weapon or looking for a weapon or something like that. So I accept that. The only other little nitpicky thing that I had was the sex scene. Now, I've always say sex scenes don't progress a story. what they do is they force the viewer to be an unwilling, involuntary voyeur of something going on, and they don't add anything to the story that we can't find out in some other way, shape, or form. Now, the only saving grace of this particular sex scene is that it was short, totally unnecessary, but short, and maybe it establishes a location. That's about all. Now, it did establish a relationship between the two characters involved, but they are co-workers, and that relationship in some way, shape, or form could certainly have been established in another way. They didn't need a sex scene to do it. But we will see later on, because maybe that will play a part, but I have serious doubts that it will, that it's just seemed to be thrown in there for the sake of throwing it in there. Just like a lot of B-grade ninja type movies or, gangster movies are always taking place in a strip club or something like that. They're so cliche. Steven Seagal style. He's always got to visit a strip club in his movies. But anyway, so they're my only two negative, well, only really one negative. The 100-pound woman kicking butt, she's armed with weapons and she takes people by surprise. So I'm happy with that. The sex scene is just not needed. You just could have cut it out, but thankfully it's not long. It's maybe 30 seconds or less than a minute. Still a waste of a minute of filming though, but anyway. Acting from everyone else, spot on, can't fault it. Fantastic job. Everyone involved did some really good job of acting. There'll be some familiar faces as you watch this, so I'm not going to spoil it on who the familiar faces is outside of Mel Gibson. But there are some familiar faces if you've seen some different other TV shows, some baddies and other things. I'll just say other things. You'll see some familiar faces in this show. Yes, there's blood and guts and violence. There's also good dialogue. That's believable type of dialogue. Nice little interesting conversations. And the story flows nicely. So I say, look, if you got an hour and a half and if you can find a way to watch it, then give it the old one too and give it a little bit of a watch. And especially if you're a John Wick fan, I say give it a little bit of a watch as well. And if you've seen it, let me know what you think down below.